Let's talk about what to feed your bully cat or XL bully cat. Now, we are going to cover kibble, wet food, raw food, freeze-dried food, and all varieties of food that can be suited best for your bully cat. Now, you do not need me to tell you that you have bought and that you have a very, very delicate breed and a very delicate cat. So it is incumbent upon you to provide the best food for your cat. I am nobody to tell you what to get and what not to get, but once you have acquired something so specific, you must care for them and you must provide them with the best possible food. Now let's start with kibble and some overarching ideas that I want you to avoid. Now, for everything you give your bully cat, I want you to read the ingredients, irrespective of what anyone says on the front of the packet, whether that's neutered, unneutered, whatever it might be. You always turn the bag of food over and you always check the ingredients. Now, because you have a very, very delicate cat, you must avoid certain ingredients. So if you pick up a bag of kibble and it contains any cereals, any wheat, any barley, any corn, any rice, anything that can potentially be inflammatory to your cat, you must put that bag of food away. Now, bully cats, like any other cats, are obligate carnivores. This means that they do not need any carbohydrates whatsoever in their diet. And if you do not look properly after your bully cat, you are going to be hit by staggering vet bills. So it really does pay to pay attention, as it were. So when it comes to kibble, we want on the back of the bag as much meat as possible. We want to see things like dried venison, fresh chicken, beef. We want to see salmon. We want to see sardines. We want to see whatever we want to give our cat when it comes to meat, and as many meat ingredients as possible. What we do not want to see is fresh chicken and then maize or wheat or rice or whatever. That just means that the manufacturer has put a lot of carbohydrates, unnecessary carbohydrates, in your cat's food. And yes, that is to dilute down the actual ingredients and for you to pay more for less. So what we want to do is be paying for meat. Another thing that I would really look out for if I were you would be any sugar or any sugar derivatives. And you might think that sugar or sugar derivatives might not be very prevalent in cat food, but they are absolutely so popular in cat food because cats are notoriously fussy. So manufacturers, and some of the biggest ones, do put some sort of sugar or some sort of sugar derivative, something like dextrose, for example, things like fructooligosaccharides, things that come from sugar and that are absolutely horrible for your cat. If you have a delicate breed, what you need to do is dial down the nutrition, because if your cat doesn't have the best nutrition, you are going to be suffering for it. So once again, no wheat, no barley, no corn, no meat and animal derivatives, no cereals, and definitely no sugar, no tapioca starch, no potatoes, for example. We want to be giving our cat as much meat as possible. How about wet food? Well, when it comes to wet food, the choices sometimes can be as bad as the kibble varieties. It is really good for your cat to be having some wet food and to have a lot of moisture. There is something in cats called chronic dehydration. Why? Because cats tend not to drink water as often as possible. They are more scavengers and they are prey eaters. They drink from the prey they catch. In theory, if they caught a mouse, that would be their nourishment when it comes to water. So if your cat is kibble fed, is dry fed, and does not get any wet food whatsoever, that can have adverse impacts on the cat. kidney disease, pancreatitis, even diabetes, any myriad of different health issues. So again, with wet food, we want no tapioca, no sugar, no wheat, no barley, no corn. We want to see as much meat as possible, and preferably 0 carbohydrates, 0 fruits, 0 vegetables, and 0 rice or 0 wheat. Can you mix wet and dry? Yes, of course you can. But if your cat develops a sense of fussiness, then that is going to be hard for you to overcome. Do not leave any food out all day, every day, because that's not how cats eat. How cats eat is in mouse-sized meals. So try to leave food out for maybe 2-3 minutes and then take it away. And if your cat hasn't eaten, then maybe wait a few hours and do it again. 3-4 meals a day would be ideal, but it's not a dog. You have a cat, and you have a very delicate cat. Moving on from wet food, which again needs to be as meaty as possible and needs to have as fewer carbohydrates as possible, is raw cat food. Now, raw cat food is arguably the most biologically appropriate food you can give your cat. Wet food and kibble are processed. They are heavily processed. You combine carbohydrates with proteins, with animal byproducts, and they turn into pellets. It doesn't take a genius to say that. But whenever it comes to raw food, the raw food is uncooked. It's minimally processed because it still needs to be processed, and it's 100% meat, or should be 100% meat. Whenever it comes to raw food, we want to look for an 80-10-10. 80% meat, 10% offal, of which 5% is liver, and then 10% is bone. And it's absolutely imperative, if you raw feed your cat, that your cat gets as close to these ratios as possible on an ongoing basis. We cannot be giving our cat just shredded chicken, for example. We can't just be giving our cat slabs of beef or whatever. We need to be giving our cat bone. We need to be giving our cat a lot of like liver and spleen and tongue and gizzard and lots of tidbits that are so beneficial to your cat. If your cat were to catch a small mammal, a rodent for example, well, now if your cat were to catch a small rodent, they would eat everything. They would eat the eyes, the nose, the feet, the skeleton. They would eat absolutely everything. So that everything is what raw food contains. It contains everything your cat needs. Now let's talk about treats, because treats is another area where a lot of people get very confused, and it isn't all that complicated again. We want to avoid any cereals and any sugar that manufacturers put in either dental sticks or any tidbits that we might give our cats. If you go to the supermarket, for example, if you go to a big box retailer, a Costco, a Target, or whatever, they tend not to have the best treats for your cat. I'm not saying they won't have treats and they won't have good treats for your cat, but if something is widely available, and we all know the brands and we all know what treats we are talking about, the plasticky ones, the really shiny ones, those tend not to be the best treats for your cat. Those tend to be massively produced, heavily processed, and they tend to contain your cereals, your sugar or sugar derivatives, wheat, barley, corn, and those are absolutely a no-go for your cat. Now, whenever it comes to a breed like this, now there are so many people talking against the breed and that you should not get a breed. In my experience, it is sometimes really stupid to tell people to not get something because that's only going to get them more riled up and more determined to get that particular breed. So I am not saying that you should not get the breed. There are always people who are going to breed these sorts of cats and these sorts of animals, so this is always going to to a certain extent be quite common and quite prevalent in certain niches of society, and that is okay. So instead of telling you that the RSPCA wants to ban them, and a lot of ads and a lot of papers telling you that you should not buy them and that they should be outlawed, I am telling you to really look after the cat. If you love the cat, if you want this particular breed, and if you want this particular look, you must understand that if you do not look after this cat well enough, this cat is potentially going to give you so many problems that you are going to wish you had never gotten the cat in the first place. For anything that has been bred to look a very, very specific way, you must inform yourself and you need to do your own research. And by the way, if you are really into cat nutrition, and in my opinion you should really be into cat nutrition, you should get our cat feeding guide. It's a guide absolutely full of tips and things that will only help your cat get a better life and for you to save money at the vet. Now, we actually have put together a list of the best and worst cat foods on the market, and I highly encourage you to watch it and to inform yourself as to how to feed your cat and to what to look up for. And my recommendation to you is to look after the cat and watch this video next, because it will really, really help you.